The date is October 23rd in the year 2024. My name is Anita Hecht, and I have the great pleasure and honor of interviewing Earl Whiteley to record the stories of your life here in Garden City and the changes that you've seen on behalf of the Finnett Foundation and the Garden City Oral History Project. So thank you very much for agreeing to do this. Thank you again, Earl. Let's start with a little bit of information about you. When and where were you born?
I was born at home on December the 23rd, 1941, 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor.
And where was home?
312 11th, half a block south of St. Mary's.
Here in Garden City.
In Garden City.
And how old are you today?
82.
82. Congratulations. I want to know a little bit about your family history. Tell me about your father's side and how they came to be in Garden City.
Grandma and Grandpa Whiteley got married in 1910 in Osborne County. That's 200 miles east of here. And they got on a train with their belongings and came to Garden City and set up a farming operation at the northwest edge of town at the base of Brookover Hill on Mary Street, just before the railroad tracks on the north side. And they were moving along with their farming and things were going well. They had built a structure, and in 1914, Grandpa Whiteley's father and mother moved here to be with them. They had sold their farm in Osborne County, and they came and they were with them. But Grandpa died in 1917, not of the flu epidemic, just of ordinary pneumonia. And so great-grandpa and great-grandma helped Grandma for several years. Grandma finally remarried in 1926, and they went back to Osborne County. But the other side of the family, my mother's side of the family, came here in 1929. Grandpa was a preacher. He wasn't a minister. He wasn't a pastor. He was a preacher. Fire and brimstone, pound the pulpit. And he had churches from Iowa to Galveston to Denver, and he got a degree in McPherson College, and he went to KU and studied there. He studied at Denver U when he had a church there. And he came through the north central part of Kansas in the middle teens. And in 1914, my mother was born in Osborne County, the same county that Daddy never lived in. Daddy was born and raised here and never lived anywhere else. Mama was born 5 miles from the Whiteley homestead in Osborne County, but they didn't know each other until way up in the middle 30s. But Grandpa Bergen was a minister of the Brethren Church, and he guaranteed the church committee that hired him that he would grow the church. How can you be so confident that you will grow the church, Brother Bergen? He said, well, I have 8 youngsters, and a couple of them are married already, and they have youngsters, and the rest of them will have friends, and they will all come to church, and we will have a larger church. He was confident.
And he was hired.
And that was in 1929, and we all know in 1929 things went south. And those 8 kids and Grandma and Grandpa did everything under the sun to struggle because a small church don't have a lot of monies, and they carried trash, they helped the elderly, and in fact, they went out west of town. There were a number of little farms out there that were growing fruits and vegetables, onions, potatoes, tomatoes, whatever would grow. And there were a number of farms along Anderson Road, and they didn't have a clue of what to do. And there was a hotshot kid on a neighboring farm that showed them how to hoe, because they had to hoe around those plants, and he would hoe 2 rows and show them as they went down the rows. I'll keep my hands up. And he'd get to the end of the row and smoke a cigarette, and these very religious people that he was showing were not happy with him smoking. But in those days, everybody smoked, but the Brethren people didn't smoke. But he'd get down there and wait, and then they'd get down there and they would hoe going the other way. Well, that was Mama and her crew learning how to do something that they didn't know how to do. But Grandpa was very innovative, and he had that whole crew doing any number of things to get along.
So it was your father was the hot shot
Oh, yeah.
kid smoking the cigarette?
Oh, yeah.
And that's how your parents met?
They knew each other at that point, but it was clear up in the middle 30s. His sister was going to church at the Brethren Church, and she insisted that he come to a party. And he went to a party, and that's when he met Mama, and they got married in 1937.
It sounds like they came from very different backgrounds.
Well, a farming background isn't a different background.
But I mean religiously, or was the Church of the Brethren really traditional?
Very, very, very traditional. The Brethren Church was formed in 1708 in Schwarzenau, Germany. It preceded the Mennonite group. They copied what Alexander Mack had started in Schwarzenau, and they eventually came to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandma's family was part of that original group. Grandma Bergen's family was in that group as early as 1714.
Wow. And did your mother's family dress traditionally?
Yes, they dressed. The only thing you could see was their nose and their fingertips.
And your mother grew up that way too?
She grew up that way. The church didn't change dressing like that until 1950.
Were they out farming in that dress too?
They wore that attire all the time, like the
Wow.
Mennonites and the Amish do.
Interesting. And so to survive the Depression, they went out and worked in the fields.
That was one of the things, yeah.
Okay. And how about your father's family? How did they survive? Also farming?
When Grandma got married the second time, she married a retired machinist from the sugar beet factory. The sugar beet factory was the main source of income in Garden City. And many of the farmers would come to town in the wintertime after they got their wheat planted and go to work at the sugar beet factory. They were processing sugar beets and making it into Garden City sugar. That's what it said on the sack of sugar, was Garden City sugar. And there were lots and lots of people. There were kids my age that, 5 years older than me, that got to work at the sugar beet factory when they were in their late teens.
And what kind of work was it? How did they turn the beets into sugar?
I do not know. I was never in there.
Interesting. An old skill. We'll have to look it up. Before your father's dad died, they had a farm. What did they farm? What kinds of things
It,
did they
it
farm?
would have been wheat primarily. They
Wheat?
might have had a little bit of Milo.
Okay. And you told me a few stories about the other people who owned the surrounding farms. Who were they?
There were a number of farms that were farmed by people from Greece, and they definitely helped Grandma through her tough times. And there was any number of them, 6 or 8 families. One of them wrote a book, and it's more than interesting.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how the Greeks came to be in Garden City or outside of
The
Kansas?
same way that the Germans and the English and everybody else did. One of them was here first, and then here came the rest of them. There were a whole lot more Germans that settled out north of Holcomb, and they were the ones that were, in fact, growing the sugar beets.
I see. And your mother's family, you said, was from Germany
My
originally.
mother's family was from England.
Oh, it's from England.
My grandfather was born in England, and he came here when he was 5 years old.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry about that.
But Grandma Bergen had clearly had German heritage, but it apparently was pretty limited and diluted. By the time I got here and did DNA, I was almost 100% Central English.
Interesting.
Didn't show hardly any German in my DNA at all.
Uh-huh. And your father's?
He was English as well.
Interesting. So what happened? Your grandmother sold the land, moved into town.
Yes, in fact, I have the deed with me.
Uh-huh. Who else was here at the time? Were there other immigrants from other countries besides Greece and Germany? And do you know if there were already Hispanics here?
When I graduated high school in 1959, there were 7 Hispanics in my class, and there were 7 colored kids in the class as well.
And how big was your class? Total?
100.
100, so it was a pretty small percentage. Did your parents tell you any stories about growing up in Garden City and what it was like for them in
I
those
asked
days?
my dad at least 50 times, how did you survive in the 30s? And his answer was, that's all I ever got.
He was a man of few words.
That's a fact.
Uh-huh.
You,
I think you also said that he lost a brother, a young brother,
he did.
to a farming accident.
They were hauling a wagon load of junk concrete on a wagon, and great grandpa was pulling the wagon, and somehow or other Daddy's brother fell off and it ran over him, and he succumbed to his injuries later that day.
That wasn't terribly unusual, probably, to lose children in that day and age.
No, it sure wouldn't have been.
Yeah. So you're born in 1941. What are your earliest memories of Garden City?
The swimming pool, the largest free municipally owned swimming pool in the world. It's gone.
Did you play there a lot?
It was a focal point.
Okay.
It didn't even have a fence around it in those days, but it did later on.
Okay. What else do you remember in your youth in Garden City?
Well, the zoo was really flourishing, and the proprietors of the zoo would bring the animals to school, and we would get to play with the lion at school because their daughter was in the same grade that I was. And that was over across the street at Garfield School.
Right here.
Right here.
Uh-huh. How many children were in your family?
I have one brother and one sister.
One brother and one sister. Where are you in the birth order?
I was at the top of the chain, and my sister was at the bottom.
Okay.
And the brother got all the attention.
Because he was in the middle. Um, did you grow up just speaking English, or was there any other languages spoken at home? Was there any German anymore in your?
Now, as a matter of fact, my friends that were of Hispanic background, they did not learn Spanish. They did not speak Spanish as adults because they didn't learn it at home. Because in those days, the Germans had quit learning German at home, and the Hispanic kids had quit learning Mexican at home.
Mm-hmm.
But later on, they wished that they had, and especially now because they can't talk to the people that are coming here now.
Yeah, it's interesting. Everybody wants to fit in. So,
Yeah.
well, tell me a little bit about what your parents did for work after you were born. How did the family survive?
Grandma married Bert
Bert
Moses.
Moses.
Yeah.
This was your paternal grandmother, the one who'd lost, okay, her husband. And Bert Moses was then
He was from the sugar beet factory. He
the
retired.
machinist. Okay.
And he's the person that started the tinker shop. And he needed something to do to occupy his time. In 1929, he started the tinker shop. And Daddy was working on a farm out west of town and had learned the art of sharpening things. People from adjoining farms would come out there and have Daddy to sharpen their tools. And Grandpa Moses was a military person, and he went to Fort Dodge with Grandma in 1933, and Daddy came in and started running the shop in 33.
Can you describe for the future generations who listen to this what a tinker shop is?
In 1933, in 1929, it was everything. There wasn't anything that couldn't be repaired. And it was just a focal point for anything and everything, that soldering pots and pans, putting handles on hoes and rakes, and they made keys and fixed anything that moved, like a bicycle or a tricycle. And Daddy did that as well, and Grandpa Moses also learned how to be a locksmith. He had tons of books that he had read and learned the art of being locksmith and how to take care of locks.
Was there a tinker shop in town beforehand, or was this entirely a new business for Garden City?
Well, every Tom, Dick, and Harry did their own repair, and what they couldn't do, what they took down there.
I see.
But there, as a competitor, there was none.
I think it's important to remember that this was long before plastics, right, came in. Was there any plastic at all, or was everything done in?
The plastic didn't come in until we started
50s
dropping the tariffs in the 60s. It was 1960 when that first bunch of junk started coming in from Japan.
Huh.
And it was literally useless, and it was not repairable.
Right. So in that day when the store started, you could fix all sorts of things, and you wanted them to last. You didn't throw them away. You just wanted them to.
Yeah, it was all
keep
repairable,
going.
and they did repair them. And we had a refrigerator that lasted 45 years and probably was 10 years old when we got it.
Wow.
Now we're told that their major appliances are going to last 3 to 5 years. That's kind of inflationary in and of itself.
So do you remember As your father goes to work in the tinker shop, you're growing up. Did you learn some of the skills as you were growing up? Did you work in the tinker shop? Do you remember what they charged for certain jobs? Tell me a little bit about it.
I did not. I didn't know anything about anything except I was sitting in the chair late one Saturday night, and Daddy worked till 9 o'clock on Saturday night because the farmers came to town to do their week's work. And as time went by in the evening, while we just went down there and sat and waited for him to come home. And I was in the front of the shop, and there was a beer joint next door.
There was a what?
A beer joint.
A beer joint, like a tavern.
Mm-hmm. And there was a couple people in that beer joint came out on the sidewalk and decided that they didn't like each other, and they were really mean to each other. And the one guy got down, and that other guy was banging his head until he was unconscious. And then a woman came up and kicked him. And my wise brother and mother said, "That's what drinking will get you to. That's what'll happen if you drink." That was the last time I ever took a drink
Of alcohol. Had you drank alcohol before that?
No, man, no. Brethren don't drink alcohol.
So you never had a drink. How old were you when that happened?
9.
9. That's pretty difficult to witness something like that violence at any age, but for a 9-year-old, wow. So there was a tavern, a beer joint next door. What were some of the other stories of the businesses that were around you, around the tinker shop?
Well, upstairs over the tavern in the 40s was where the military people came to the dance. There was a dance hall above the tavern. It was a large area that people would come, in fact, to dance. A lot of people found their mate in that dance hall.
Mm-hmm. So yes, you grew up during the wartime.
The area was quite active, and of course, downtown area was the only place that you could come and buy something. So even on the off streets, there was plenty of activity. There was 2 grocery stores in that block, and there were a place to get your piano tuned, and they sold pianos and instruments. There was a car dealership, a laundry, and there were 2 places that people brought their cream to get their cream processed and sold. They sold the cream and chickens out of one of the places, and the other one just was a creamery. And there were 2 dairies in that same block that other larger people came and dropped off their milk.
Sounds like that was a very vibrant downtown.
It was 100% viable, and it was where everything was conducted.
Yeah.
There wasn't hardly anything else. There were a couple of what we refer to now as a 7-Eleven. There was one on Fulton and another one at 5 Points, but that was about the size of it.
That was the size of Garden City's downtown. So what was around it?
Wheat and cattle, and that's it.
That's it.
In the 40s, 3rd Street and Taylor Street, well, there's railroad tracks to the west edge of town, and that railroad tracks was not houses everywhere, but 3rd Street was a dropping off place on the east side of town.
So you've really seen so much change over the years of your life here. It's changed completely.
I worked on a farm when I was in junior high school, and Mama had to take me to the farm because it was out in the country. Now people jog all over town, and it's in the middle.
It's in the middle of town, the farm that you worked on?
Yeah, it was up on Mary Street, and The farm I worked on was from 3rd Street to Campus Drive on the south side. That's where the junior high school is and Bible Christian Church is.
Okay.
He owned all that property across there.
So your dad starts working at the tinker shop. And what does your mom go to work too, or did she stay home? How did she work in the shop? What is her?
My brother was born in 1946, and he was a special needs young man, and she took care of his needs impeccably. And she found out, in fact, that there were others like him. And as time went on, there was 3 of them, and then there was 4 that she was doing crafts with and working with. And then there were other ladies that were equally interested in making sure that those youngsters were taken care of. And just a half a block from our house, the priest went to there every day and had coffee with that young man. And he had been doing that for well over a year and found out that there was a young lady in the adjoining room. And he never told the priest that he had a daughter. And when the priest found out, he was livid that that young lady had been there and he hadn't been able to give her a blessing. He told that man, she needs a blessing too. And they got her to come into the workshop with everybody else, and it grew and it grew and it grew.
Wow, so your mother really was a pioneer in that way of creating services for disabled children.
She started the initial group in Garden City along with the other ladies.
What was her name? Your mother's name?
Iva Whiteley.
Iva Whiteley.
Yeah.
And your dad's name?
John.
John, also like yours. Okay. John. Earl as well, or you're this Earl, the only Earl?
I'm John Earl. He was John Plum, named after his mother's side of the family.
I see. Was your father part of the Church of the Brethren too, or was he?
Not till he got married.
Not till he got married. He sounds like he was a little bit wilder than your mother's side of the family.
He wasn't wild by any standard.
No?
but
He smoked cigarettes, okay.
But he smoked.
Did he drink or not drink either?
He didn't drink.
I think you said your mother was part of the Temperance Union?
She was the president of the WCTU, the Women's Christian Temperance Union.
Mm-hmm. Do you know anything about that organization, or did you?
I think it might not exist anymore.
Yeah.
It was a big deal during Prohibition.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My mother's grandfather lived in south central Kansas, and he hooked up a team of horses for a young lady that went to Medicine Lodge and busted up a bar. Her name was Carrie Nation. Are you familiar with Carrie Nation? You don't know about the WCTU either. Carrie Nation went around several states busting up places that had alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
She is an icon of,
Mm-hmm.
of the Prohibition, anti-Prohibition time frame.
But it sounds like there were taverns all around and beer joints here in Garden City.
There's a few.
Mm-hmm. Were there other businesses you remember? Stores in the vicinity of the tinker shop? I think you said there was a thrift store. Was that next
Well,
door?
before the beer joint was there was a secondhand store.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where Two Bit Harvey was at.
Who was Two Bit Harvey?
Two Bit Harvey stuttered. And they'd come in and want to buy something, and they'd ask, well, how much is that? How much is that, Harvey? 2 dits, 2 dits.
What was a dit? A dime?
A quarter.
A quarter.
Yeah, 2 dits.
Was a quarter.
2 bits.
2 bits. So what What were the charges in the tinker shop, for example, to get work done? Do you remember any of the pricing
He
there?
was making keys for 15 cents. And I have a book that shows how much he got from Tom, Dick, and Harry over a period of about 6 or 7 years. And almost every entry was 10 cents or 15 cents. Occasionally there was a 25-cent entry. And sometimes, for whatever reason, there might even have been a dollar that whatever he had done, it must have taken a tremendous amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a low income thing during the 30s.
Did the war change that?
When the Air Force Base came to Garden City after the early 40s, 42, 43, and established the Air Force Base out here, then the government money started rolling into the community, and everybody smiled a lot better because they went through every phase of the community, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And the daddy would go to the Air Force Base out at 12 miles east of town and work out there 4 hours at a time doing lock work because he was in fact a locksmith, and the government pay for doing lock work was somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 times as much as he'd been getting in town prior to that.
So business got much better.
That's why he was able to buy a TV set in 1953 and put up a 62-foot tower. That 62-foot tower was made at Palmer Manufacturing, and O.G. Palmer made the first 60-foot towers. We had to bounce TV in here from Great Bend, 120 miles northeast, or from Oklahoma City, which is 300 miles away. But we could bounce the signal. Once in a while, we watched the World Series in '53, and the Van Johnson baseball team came over to our house to watch the World Series in black and white.
What a big moment. Did you have one of the first televisions in town?
It was the third one
Wow. In your home, you had it.
in our home.
Hmm.
And the pitcher on the BJ team, he had the same affliction that you do and that I do. He threw me a pencil and I caught it, and he said, "Good catch." And he knew because I caught it in my right hand that I too was left-handed like you.
Uh-huh. We're special. They say smarter and more creative.
Well, I am not in my right mind.
So that was a technological change to have television come in. What other technology changes do you remember? Because you grew up in a time during and after the war where the world changed quite a bit.
I can remember that we no longer had to reach up on the wall and take the phone off the hook and put it to your ear, and the lady said, "Number, please." And I called number 55, and then I could talk to Grandma. By those days, we had a phone that was in a cradle, and it had one of those dials on it. And that was a major innovation. I showed my great grandson last week a picture of the switchboard over on 7th Street, where several women were sitting in chairs with a great big board in front of them and wires everywhere. And a woman you could see her as if she was starting to talk, and you'd reach and grab a piece of wire that had a black thing on the end of it and poke it in a hole and connecting the two people.
So that transition to getting a rotary phone that you could dial yourself, basically, you didn't need a switchboard operator
We didn't
anymore.
need switchboard operators, and all those girls were unemployed.
It still happens how technology.
2 of them lived in our block.
Interesting.
They were unemployed.
Wow. What kind of a kid were you?
Normal.
Did you go to school? Did you like school? Did you play sports? Did you learn how to pick locks?
I had an eighth grade teacher that told the class at in the springtime when it was hot in that building over there that if you have a job that you're using your hands to work and earn money, you're using your hands to make a living, you need to get a better job. And I was sitting at the back of the room with my name started with W, so I sat at the back of the room. And I blurted out, "That's a bunch of crap." And he said, "Who said that?" And I raised my hand. And as I went toward the front, he had sent me to Abe Hubert, to the office, to the principal's office. And on the way, the cheerleader thumped me in my stomach and said, "Way to go," because her dad was a contractor. 75% of the kids in that class, their dads worked with their hands. He made a good point. It's a valid point. Everybody knows it's nice to have a job that you push a pencil. All of my grandkids are pencil pushers except one. He's a farmer.
He's a farmer. Yeah, but that's kind of a rough thing to say to kids whose families work with their hands. Yeah. Were you spunky then? You
I
didn't
was
mind.
that day at that
You
point
didn't
in
mind
time.
speaking your mind.
Mr. Hubert, Abe Hubert said, "What are you doing here?" And he sent me home at that point. He didn't punish me in any way, shape, or form when I shared with him what had transpired.
Interesting. What did you do for fun? You went to the pool. Were there other things that you did as a kid growing up here?
Oh, there was, oh, I remember now. There was a little round thing. We used to throw it back and forth.
Baseballs? You played baseball?
Yeah,
Okay.
I did.
And did you follow baseball also on the radio or anything?
I followed it and it followed me wherever we went. That's what we
Okay.
did.
Cool. And tell me about school in terms of how it was different back then than what you see today. Both the students who went there and the things you studied. Your kids went through school here, so what was your experience of school like?
The mindset at that point in time is we're here for a purpose and we fully intend to better ourselves by being here. And everybody there, well, there might have been one or two that didn't, but everybody there respected the teachers, 100% respect. But there was always one or two hot shots that cut up and made problems. I did once. That guy clear on the other end of the room threw a paper wad at me and I ducked. And it was in music class. And all I did was duck. I didn't want it to hit me. And the music teacher told me to go to the office. And when I got to Abe Hubert, he said, "You don't want to be in that class, do you?" And I'm reasonably sure that that music teacher had heard me sing, and that's the reason I was in library from then on.
Interesting. So, let's see. You graduated from high school in 1959. Did you work before you graduated? Did you have to go to work?
I had worked on farm plowing, and then I worked on another farm bucking bales, picking up bales and putting them on a trailer. I was a little bitty feller. I only weighed 95 pounds when I was a freshman, and I was on the wrestling team. And that summer, why I was bucking bales, and I got some muscles, and I weighed 108 as a sophomore. There were 5 of us when we graduated that were 145 pounds. Three of those kids were 6'5" and 6'6". The other one was big around. And I was just normal always.
What did you see for your future when you graduated? What did you want to do?
I saved money my whole life. Nickel, dimes, everything I made on the farm, I saved it. I saved it. I saved it. I bought a railroad train engineer once that cost $25 in 1957, and I bought a baseball glove in 1957 that cost $25. Other than that, I saved everything that I ever earned.
I didn't catch the first thing you bought was a railroad.
A railroad train engine.
Oh, a railroad train engine. Okay.
A little bitty engine for a railroad train. It's a beautiful piece.
You still have it?
It's sitting on the counter at home.
Nice.
Right beside my ball glove.
Nice.
And in 60 and 61, I went to junior college, and then I went to junior college for 2 years for $200, books and everything, in 60 and 61. Then in the fall of 61, I went to McPherson and started spending that $2,656 that I had saved. And when I left there, I graduated cum last. I wasn't cum laude, I was cum last. When I graduated in the spring of 63, I was married and flat broke.
What was your degree in? Did you get a degree?
Business administration and economics.
Uh-huh. So you had a mind for going into business.
Yeah. One of the kids I sat beside 10 years later, he donated $10 million to McPherson College.
Wow.
10 years later, I was raising kids.
Did you meet your wife in college or here? Or where did
No, I met her. One of the kids I played ball with, his sisters were coming to the ball games, and she was with his sisters.
Was she from Garden City too?
She was.
Yeah. Oh, so you're really both natives here.
No, she is not. She didn't get here till 56.
Okay. So you finished college in 1962, 63? When did you finish?
63.
63. And then what was next for you?
Well, I went to work at the shop.
How did that come about?
Well, I'd been working there after school since 58.
Oh, you had? Okay.
Yes. So it was just the natural thing to do.
Was it expected? Did your dad expect you to go into the business?
Absolutely not. He didn't anticipate or expect anything. He just worked, and then he would work some more. And he didn't leave town because he was afraid somebody would need him, and he was comfortable doing work. That was his comfort zone.
I imagine he taught you the skills that he learned. What were some of the skills that you picked up?
We did lock work and opened safes that people tried to break into and didn't succeed, and we'd open them for them. And we still fixed a lot of different things, including bicycles. And he was selling bicycles.
Oh, so you also sold things there? How did you learn to do all this stuff? Just watching or reading, or how did you learn to open safe?
100% watching.
Your dad?
Repetition and watching and doing it over and over.
So you take over the shop in 1963, and do you work with your father in the shop for a while?
Yeah, for about 50 years.
Oh, wow.
He worked until he was 79, and I worked until I was 79.
So, real family business. I'd love to hear some of your favorite stories or some examples of the kinds of work that you did for people. Do you have any particular stories or particular um, jobs you did that stand out?
One story that comes to mind is a few years ago, a guy came in and he said, "I've got a challenge for you." Well, I'd already been there 50 years and I didn't need any challenges.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have anything to prove to me or anybody else. That'll give you insight to I had needed an attitude adjustment.
Uh-huh. Do you remember what he asked you to do?
I have no idea.
Were there certain things that you liked doing over other types of jobs?
Go home at night.
Go home at night to be done with the day?
I did lock work all day long. I would go change the locks for a business that had fired somebody, and I would change the locks so that their keys wouldn't work anymore in the morning so that guy couldn't get in. That was regular procedure daily. That 2 or 3 times we'd go change the locks for somebody, and then somebody lose the combination for their safe, and I'd go open their safe for them, and it was an endless process during the daytime. But we had bicycles to sell, and those bicycles had to be put together, and we repaired bicycles, and those bicycles had to be repaired, and I did that at night.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go home at 6 o'clock and eat and go back and fix some stinking bicycles.
You were always working, it sounds like.
That's what Daddy did. That's what
Yeah.
I was supposed to do.
Got it. Tell me how the city starts to change as you're growing up, as you then are an adult and running this store. How did the city change?
Well, it was clearly a hub for even the outlying towns because Dillon's was here and people would come to the big town from the little outlying towns to do their weekly shopping at Dillon's.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them were bringing their produce here to sell,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a farming community always, and it still is a basic farming community because we are surrounded by farms. And then the cattle industry came along with the first feedlot, and then there were feedlots that just sprung up everywhere. And there are 20% of the cattle slaughtered every day in the United States in Garden City, Dodge City, and Liberal.
Wow.
That's a lot of production in this area because once the feedlots were here, well, then the cattle were here to be slaughtered. They didn't have to take them from anywhere else.
How did that change your environment or your experience of living here?
It just made everything quicker. It wasn't laid back anymore. We were rocking and rolling.
Yeah. Yeah. Did it change the population because so many more people were coming in to work here?
Just more and more, and the demographics just got completely shifted.
Because of immigrants coming in from all different countries? Yeah.
They first came from the South, but now they're from everywhere.
Okay. So it's changed quite a bit, the whole sort of color of the city.
Yeah.
Did that also change who came into your shop? Did you start to have other people from different countries come into your shop and need help?
All you can do is just keep smiling.
Mm-hmm.
If you're smiling, well, they get along. It was easy to work with the people from down south. They spoke Spanish, so I just talked to them in their language.
Do you speak some Spanish?
A little bit. I grunt and point and get along real good.
Uh-huh. But you learned a little bit?
I had some Spanish in school.
I thought you said something interesting when we first spoke, that you would get tips from people for doing work for them.
Yeah, I got my first tip from the sign painter that painted signs on the windows.
Uh-huh.
I got my first tip from him. He gave me $100.
Wow.
Well, he had Alzheimer's.
Oh,
I gave it back
you
to
gave
him.
it back.
I
Uh-huh.
gave it back to him.
Uh-huh.
But as the people came in from down south, from Mexico and Central America, they were constantly giving me even a quarter and 50 cents, and later on, after 2 or 3 rounds of inflation, why they were giving me $1 for doing basically what I had done for 50 years, and now I was getting tips from these people that came. They appreciated the effort that we were putting forth to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm. It's part of that culture, I think, perhaps more
That's
than...
not nice. That trumps what I just said. That's their culture. They do that at home too.
Well, I mean, I just know that I do that.
I didn't know that till a week ago.
It's partly where you grow up, what's expected in tipping, because people
There was never any tips from any segment of our population until they started doing it.
Interesting.
Of course, there were tips at restaurants, but not in anybody else didn't ever get a tip.
How did your work change over the years? Did it change, as you said, with the plastics coming in or with appliances that don't last very long? How did that change the tinker shop, and what kinds of work you got there?
Well, there were fewer and fewer things that we had to putter around on, so we just focused on things that were quicker and easier. But Daddy was working on those stinking door closers. Do you know what a door closer is? It's that cussed thing hanging at the top of the door when you open the door. That arm comes and then it brings the door back shut by itself.
Mm-hmm.
That thing's got oil in it, and sometimes they leak. When they leak, you got to put a new rubber in there so that the leak will be sealed. And to get them apart was a arduous job, and I hated it. And Daddy just kept doing it because that's one of the things he did.
Right.
And if he didn't have the ability to do something, he would make the ability to do it.
You would learn it.
For instance, we sharpened lawnmowers. The old push lawnmowers that you push by hand, that the reel would go round and round and round and round and round.
Mm-hmm.
We sharpened 200 of those a year in 1964. In 1965, they tore up 8th Street and put a tube down the middle of the street. It was a 4-foot tube. They put it down the middle of the street, and we were shut down for 45 days, and people wouldn't push their lawnmower a block to get their lawnmower started. So they went to the store and bought a new lawnmower that went around and around this way. Mm-hmm. And I still sharpened a lawnmower 3 years ago, but it was one a year kind of a thing.
Yeah. Not many push mowers left.
Interesting.
Did the changes to the stores and the bigger box businesses and the shopping malls also affect the tinker shop?
They did, but in 1970, they tore down the old shop, and we moved immediately across the street. And across the street was a large room, and we sold bicycles out of there. We had 100 bikes on the floor. There were 100 bikes available for sale, and we even had a storage facility down the block. And we were selling bicycles just fine in 70, 71, 72, and 73, and 74. In fact, we had $5 wheat in 1975, and we sold a lot of bicycles. But it was still a farmer market, and everything was relevant to an item that was available for sale, and people were buying, at that point in time, 10-speed bikes.
Where did you get the inventory? Where did you buy it from?
Oklahoma City, Denver.
And so they were bicycles made in the U.S. for the most part?
They imported them. They were Japanese bicycles.
Mostly Japanese.
They were good bikes by then.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
We had always sold Schwinn, but when the 10-speed era came, why, we got our stuff from Japan.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm always curious about what happens to small businesses, like when the big stores come in, like Walmart or Target. Did that affect you at all?
Well, it did, but it's still a personal business.
Mm-hmm.
When you're selling, and the community trusts you, the area trusts you, people from out of town got one from them, well, we'll go get ours there. We were fine. And in 1987, on October the 19th, the stock market broke. And we were selling bicycles to who laid the chuck. We sold 300 bicycles in 1987.
Right.
And all of those big box places were here, and they were going fine. There were isolated instances. One time I bought 100 handlebars, high riser handlebars.
Uh-huh.
And I gave 88 cents for them, and we'd been selling them for $2, and I got them for 88 cents. Will Gibson's got them the same day, and they were selling them for $1. So already I had an incident where I had a lot of handlebars to eat. But we were still fine until 87. The stock market broke in 87, and there was no healing after that. We sold 300 bikes in 87, and in 88 we sold 150 bikes, and we had exactly the same thing. But people folded when the market broke in 87.
So a lot of small businesses went under?
And October the 19th is when it broke in 87, and October the 29th is when it broke in 1929, and this is October, is this the 23rd?
Third.
The stock market went down 500 points this morning.
October is an interesting month.
That's not really very much. If it had gone down 2,000, that would be comparable to 87.
Do you follow these things?
From the day I locked the door of that stinking shop, I went home and been with the business.
Really? You're day trading?
As a matter of fact.
That's wild. Okay. So tell me about, well, before we get to retiring, are there other stories you can tell me about the Tinker Shop? What you liked about it? Maybe what you were good at? And then maybe the opposite, what you didn't like about it? What was hard for you?
I guess we was good enough to keep it going.
Uh-huh. Did you like running your own business?
I probably wasn't capable of doing anything else.
Uh-huh.
I probably would have gotten fired someplace else.
You would have? Hard to work with?
Yeah.
Any other changes to Garden City or to the downtown area that were very significant in your mind, whether it was changes to the population or to the business environment or to the schools that your kids went to? I'm just curious about the biggest changes that you think have happened.
My kids went to the same grade school that my dad went to, and the same grade school that I went to, and now that same school has somewhere in the neighborhood of 96, if not 97% people that are Hispanic. at that school now. But that don't have anything to do with anything. There's it's just a fact.
Have you seen all of this growth and change as positive for Garden City or as negative or good and bad? How do you feel about all of this? This diverse population, the industry moving in.
It's impossible to put it in perspective because if there was some kind of an event where people got mad at each other, you wouldn't know whose side to be on because it is so diverse. You just have to be like an ostrich. You just keep yourself to yourself. And I don't know that we need to live in fear, but if one group got mad at another group, we wouldn't know which side to be on. There's so many groups.
There's so many groups. Have you been able to make friends with somebody who's very different than you are or comes from a very different background? Have you met people who...
Yeah, I can't count any number of people that I perceive to be my friends that have come from foreign countries. But the fellow that came from Mexico lives across the street. He's the guy I sold the shop to. I perceive him to be a friend.
Yeah. How was it for your kids growing up here? Did they?
They didn't know any better. It was fine. It was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine then. They're 60 years old. That was a long time ago they grew up.
Are they still here in town?
Half of them are.
Half of them are. How many do you have? 4?
4. One of them's in Dallas. And I'm so proud of my daughter. She got her master's degree at 53 years old. And she's mad at her brother because he don't have a master's degree and she's in education and he's making 10 times as much as she is.
But nobody wanted to go into the tinker shop of your kids?
Oh my gosh, they're smarter than that.
Tell me what happened to the tinker shop and when.
I sold it to the guy across the street 3 years ago.
So at one point you decided I've had enough. It's time for me to do something else.
Yeah, I was burned out.
You were burned out. Was there still business coming through though? There was enough work that you could sell
at
it?
times I would sit on a chair in there and somebody would come through the door and I'd say, "Don't bother me, I'm busy."
You were really done. Yeah. Okay.
No, that was being cynical. No, then I would jump up and take care of them unless I knew them, and then I'd just continue to sit. Because a lot of people came to the shop in the last 15, 20 years to visit.
Nice. Is there anybody, any particular Garden City stories that I haven't asked you about that you want to share? About any of the lore or something that you think makes this city unique, something that...
When we were kids, we used to drag Maine. We'd go up and down for $1 worth of gas. We could drag Maine for 4 hours, and we would just go up and down, back and forth, back and forth. And at the end of this block is a place where 3 streets come together, and we called that the square. I meet you at the square, and we could sit there with 2 cars and visit. That don't happen anymore. There seemed to be too much of that going on in the local Gestapo decided that probably was a bad idea, and kids can't do that anymore. And I remember the Halloween stuff. Yeah, we used to have outhouses beside the house before we had indoor plumbing. And on Halloween, sometimes the outhouse would get tipped over. Sometimes they'd move the outhouse just before Halloween, and the guy would step into it in the process of going to tip it over. But that don't have anything to do with the question you asked.
No, but they're interesting memories. Wow.
That was the end of the path, is where the outhouse was.
So you remember that I think that's. Are there any other changes or in day-to-day living that you just think are so different today than how you grew up?
Well, my friend at the filling station, his dad was in the Army and was stationed here, and he married and stayed here and ran that filling station for 40 years, and then his son ran it for another 30 years. He told me that, remember when the Orientals started showing up, there was 3,000 of them. There was maybe up to 4,000 there for a while. Yeah, I remember that. He said, well, you got used to that, didn't you? Yeah, over a period of time, we kind of got used to it. It kind of mellowed in. It wasn't bothering us so much anymore. He said it'll be the same way when these other guys, you'll get used to them.
Mm-hmm.
He's very wise.
Mm-hmm.
I don't agree with his politics.
That's a whole nother oral history,
That's
right?
another story.
You did mention the Garden City Rec program as part of what you grew up with, that there was a history of 2 umpires from here going to the majors.
That's true.
Tell me about that.
There's a young man that his father taught here, and he grew up here, and he became a professional umpire. And he worked a World Series game once in New York on behind the camera and once on the field. And now his son is, in fact, an umpire. There are 92 professional umpires in our world that umpire baseball, and we have 2 from here. They are really from Holcomb. That's 7 miles west of here, but all their umpiring started here.
Oh, interesting. And that was started here through the rec program, through the Garden City Recreation Program? Interesting.
I walked from my house on 11th Street to Alda Brown School, which was at the very edge of Garden City, in 1946 to play ball in the Garden City Rec program.
Mm-hmm.
And my left-handed neighbor boy, and I both walked over there and played ball in 1946. And I had to quit. I played for a little while, but I had to quit when I was 59.
Because?
I was old.
59, hey.
Nobody wanted me. My diminishing talent was too slow.
Well, you have other talents now, like day trading, and you retired 3 years
That's
ago.
the most fun I ever had in my life.
Really? So, was it hard to let go of the tinker shop?
Oh no.
No.
No, I don't have dreams about it. I don't. I dream and I remember my dreams, but it's not there.
Okay. Now, you've stayed in Garden City your whole life. What do you like about being here?
But just like Daddy, I don't know any better.
Don't know any
I
better.
don't know anything else.
Have you ever thought of living somewhere else?
What?
Have you ever thought of living somewhere else?
Yeah, all my relation, there was a number of my relatives lived in Pueblo. I thought about being there.
In Pueblo.
But I was at McPherson for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
I did not get on the telephone one single time until November, and I hitchhiked home in November to go pheasant hunting, because that's what I do. That's what we do. And in 2 weeks, if the world don't blow up after the election, my son is coming from Dallas with a half a dozen people and 2 grandsons and a great-grandson that has his hunter safety permit, and we're going pheasant hunting.
Fun. Well, what are your favorite parts about living here? What makes this place special for you?
It is special all through time when you could talk to anybody and be comfortable talking to anybody and communicate on an equal level. Because for in my mind's eye, for the most part, I don't feel like people high-hatted anybody else. Basically, we felt comfortable that we were all on the same level.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not that way now. 5 years ago, I went into Dillon's and I looked and I looked and I didn't see a single person that I knew. When you're as far past 30 as I am, there's a lot of new people in town.
Mm-hmm.
And when the town's gone from 10,000 to 30,000, there's 20,000 people that I don't know. And I looked, and I saw Carl clear at the back, and I ran. I literally ran across Dillon's, and I hugged Carl. He said, "What in the heck is the matter with you? You lost your mind?" I just barely knew Carl, but he was the only person in there that I recognized.
Wow.
After that, he started coming to the shop regularly.
Yeah. Okay. So the small town, sort of knowing your neighbor has been important to you, but that's also changed. Do you have any fears about Garden City and its future survival or?
The only fear is that if another packing plant burns up. We had 2 packing plants and one burned down.
Mm-hmm.
And poor old Boone had 13 trailers. He was from Cambodia and he was born in 1941 also. And we were quite close. And he was, good gosh, when that thing burned, he was well over 60. He went to Liberal and learned how to do refrigeration work, to put repair refrigerators and air conditioners. He went to school in Liberal to become a refrigeration person. But he had 13 trailer houses that he was renting to people at the packing plant that burned up.
Wow.
And he lost all of his renters because they all had to move away.
Hmm. That's hard.
If the packing plant that we have out at Holcomb would burn up, we would have a very uncomfortable town.
So it's been good for the economy to have all of these industries move here and bring people.
The good news is we have 3 supporting businesses now that are large that have $60,000 and $70,000 a year employees instead of $30,000 and $40,000, and that will help. But they have 50 employees, so it's nothing like having 2,000.
Mm-hmm. Anything else that I haven't asked you about Garden City and its history that you would like to include?
I have a picture over there that's got my great-grandpa and my grandpa and my dad and myself and my son and my grandson and my great-grandson.
Well, we'll definitely include that.
And they're all named John.
Yeah.
That proves what I've been trying to tell you all along. I'm not very original. We're just plodding along.
Well, do you have any hopes for the future of the Tinker Shop, even though it's not yours anymore?
Since I sold that to Pablo, he was in there 3 or 4 times, and he put concrete in the basement. That building was built in 1917, and they hauled used concrete from somewhere, and they built that structure from the hole in the ground up with used concrete. And then they built the main floor and went on up with whatever. And Pablo put new concrete in that basement. Had to cost him $10,000. I don't know what they got going on down there, but he's The door is not open. It's just sitting there. He put brand new carpet in there, took all of my junk out, and there it sits. It isn't. There's no one occupying it.
So there's no tinker shop really happening.
Absolutely not.
Interesting. Well, I'm so glad you captured the history of it here because now it exists in perpetuity.
That's it.
All
It's
right.
terminated.
Thank you for contributing to this project. I appreciate it. It's been very fun to interview you.
Oh, I had fun as well.